Today, I am sitting down with my client, Anna Rova, who came to styling from a fascinating and unexpected place. Anna built a 7-figure dating coaching business, closed it down, and decided to become a personal stylist. The thing is, she had never really styled friends and family. She grew up in Moldova, thinking that style was something other people were just born with, something she never really saw herself being a part of. But during the course of her business success as a dating coach online, she figured out that style was a skill she could learn. Anna joined me inside my Accelerator program, and on today's episode, we talk all about what happens when you've already built one successful business and you have to start completely over in a world that doesn't see you as the expert that you are yet. I think you'll really enjoy our conversation. Let's get into it. This is a 6-figure personal stylist podcast. I'm Nicole, and this is a show for personal stylists building world-class businesses and setting the standard in the industry. We're talking all things profitable growth, thought leadership, and real client transformations, because the best stylists don't just edit closets, they shape culture. Welcome, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Nicole. I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, all the way from Bali. It's pretty incredible what the internet can do. Tell us a little bit about how you joined the world of personal styling and what you were doing right before.
Right before becoming a personal stylist, I was actually a dating coach. I had a program that was teaching women how to basically attract the right partner.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing that for about 5 years, and the business was pretty successful. And then I decided to close that business down. And I was thinking about what I wanted to do. And so my dating coaching program also had a lot of elements in it of like feminine energy, discovering your wild woman, discovering your how do you want to feel inside as a woman. It was basically personal development. And so a big part of that was actually discovering yourself as a woman. And when I was doing that process for myself, when I went on that journey before, meeting my husband, a lot of that was about rediscovering my femininity and beauty and what I loved, and really learning all these different parts about myself. And style was actually a big part. Like, I started to be really, really interested in it quite a few years ago, and I worked with stylists and, really learned about my body shape, like all of that stuff. And I started to be obsessed with the subject to the point where, while I was still coaching and dating, I actually took my personal styling certification. I became a personal stylist certified. I actually did the personal styling and editorial without knowing that this will ever be my career. So yeah, when I closed down that dating business, I took some time to figure out what I wanted to do next. And I remember in Bali, I was, if you have never been to Bali, there's all these amazing cafes, amazing energy, perfect places for like sitting and writing down notes and visioning into the future. So it was that
Yeah.
one day, I was like drinking my matcha latte and journaling on the question, like asking myself, what do I see myself doing every day? Like, what would I love my day to be filled with? And a thought came into my mind, and it was, I would love to help women with style. So from that on, from that day on, and this was a bit more than a year ago from today, I was like, I'm going to pursue this. And it was a crazy thought, because I think, unlike a lot of your clients who are stylists, I did work in a retail store when I was a student, but it was nothing like a career. It was a summer job.
Right.
Like, I don't come from a retail industry. I did not style friends. I was never in that industry
Right.
ever. And this was the last
Yeah.
career that I thought I would be like the last person to become a stylist,
Well,
Yeah.
I want to talk about that more because from, our work together, I read a lot of your marketing and I read, a lot of the things that you wrote. So I got to know your story a lot. And not only was you not styling friends and family, you like actively did not think of yourself as like a stylish person.
No, not
Correct.
at
Right?
all.
Like that was not like it wasn't so that was actually was really interesting about your story. So when you took the certification, you really didn't you weren't like, was it to help your clients? Like, why did you go take a personal styling certification? I mean, that's intense.
And that's what I'm saying. I think I'm very much unlike a lot of your clients in actually many ways. I think, well, one of the ways is like, you know, I didn't grow up being that girl who just knew how to wear clothes well and everybody was kind of looking at me, and like I did not
Right.
grow up with like an innate sense of even taste or style or whatever. Like
Yeah.
if you know my background or where I come from, so I was born in Moldova, which is a post-Soviet republic, the poorest country in Europe. And if you grow up in that environment, dressing well and looking great and fashion and whatever, it's like the last thing. It's like, women who are stylish, first of all, when I was growing up, or girls, I guess, and then teenagers and women were all from rich families. So for me, I associated looking good and looking stylish
With what?
with being rich and actually coming from a family who could afford, because I couldn't afford anything basically. So, and I came from a country where, we used clothes to just cover our bodies, like this was a necessity rather than something to express ourselves. I mean, I do remember when like my dad bought me an orange puffer coat, and this was like
Right.
the most amazing thing that ever happened. But it was never something that I saw my family, like, my mother passed away when I was really young. I didn't have any female role models that I could model. And I also grew up in the country, in a society, and in, let's say, a very kind of middle class family for where I came from, where this was not a thing. Yeah, we wanted to look
Right.
cool and good as teenagers, but I never talked to and I never met anyone who was, like, stylish. So, back to your question about why did I a styling certification. I don't know. I had the money. I had a seven-figure business. So, I
Right.
had five grand in my bank account, and I was like, "This is fun. This is calling me." Because I started to do all the courses about style and working with styles, and I was fascinated by the fact that this is like a whole I realized that style is actually a skill and something that I can learn. Because for me, as I said, I looked at all these women who were dressing well, and I never saw myself or my identity as I could be that. This was never a reality for me. I thought there were some like mythical creatures who just knew how to dress well since the moment they were born, and that could never be me. I just didn't see myself this way. So when I started to take all these courses, I was like, "Oh my god, there is like I could dress my body in a certain way, and I could use illusion dressing principles to emphasize certain parts of my body, and I could work with color, and I could do this."
It was like
And I was
magic.
like, yeah, and I was like, "Oh my god, I could actually be that girl. I could be that person, and it's not something
Mm.
mythical, magical, whatever. I can learn how to do this." So that's why I was fascinated by it, and took the certification as a result.
The more you're talking, the other thing that I think is interesting, and it's a conversation that I've I've never really had publicly, but I do kind of wonder as another business owner, or because you were a business owner before and you had this like $1 million business, and like you had all this success and you were super public facing and you have a huge following, and you really like, we're kind of underselling that you're a dating coach here. This was not a small business. This was like, you were a very well-known public figure. What's interesting about this is, do you think that becoming successful in that world, uh, facilitated a need to have to look a certain way? Because we both know that there is a lot of pressure as you earn more to look like you earn more. And do
Yeah.
you think that styling and like completely immersing yourself in it from the angle of being a business owner versus, you just always like style, it has something to do with trying to make it in that world too?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, and this is now as a stylist, I talk about this transformational moment.
Right. But
For
you
me,
experience, yeah.
yeah, for me, the transformational moment was not necessarily because I was a public figure and I had to kind of look a certain way, but
Mhm.
for me, I started making an amount of money that was like unfathomable for me, like,
Right.
years before where I came from. And so, when you're making $50,000 a month,
Right.
and like I remember a distinct moment, I started to look at myself in the mirror and I was like, hang on a second, like
What?
what
Yeah.
I have in, and that's what I talk about, because my favorite group of women to work with now are entrepreneurs, because they're like me, and now I'm a stylist for successful women, but also like my biggest passion is entrepreneurs. But when I started making that much money, as we become successful in our heads, we see ourselves as these powerful women who are creating something amazing in the world. And of course, the moment you start making a certain amount, you feel the power, and you're showing up in the world a certain way. And
Mhm.
then when you look at yourself in the mirror and that doesn't match to
Yeah,
what you
it's hard.
have in your head, I was like, hang on a second, I can't be dressing this way anymore. This is not okay. I need to close that gap, so to say. So this is where my initial interest in style started to arise, and I started taking courses, and all that, for sure. And a second moment, that a follow up from that, I was joining these masterminds with people who are also doing, seven figures and beyond. And I was just sitting in those rooms, looking around at women, but also men, and just feeling like I don't belong. And it wasn't about, the Chanel bag or whatever. It was just a sense of taking myself seriously, and taking
Yep.
myself, just treating myself, I think, on a different level, in an upgraded level, where
Yeah.
details matter, like where I present myself in a way that says, I belong here, but not from like a vanity perspective, but really from
No.
a,
I
yeah.
think what you said is, like, paying attention to yourself. It's sort of like
Mhm.
let's be honest. I mean, you talked about where you grew up and stuff, but I think, like, we don't talk about status enough as stylists, and I think it's important to point out that, like, people hire stylists when they get a certain amount of status, not just because they wanna impress other people, but because they notice, as humans in society, how other people are acting and what it's supposed to look like to embody something, right? And there are bad versions of this too on the internet where everybody kind of looks the same. That's not what we're talking about. But there are, like, the reality is, when you start to make six figures, when you start to have $30,000, $40,000 months, and you get into rooms, like I paid $50,000 for a mastermind, it was not the same vibe as it was when I spent 2,000 to do a networking event in town, right? Like, you start to see things. Yeah, sometimes it's a Chanel bag, but it's also just like they start to have the space and the time to focus on themselves in detail. When you're scrappy and coming up, like, you just don't have the bandwidth. And so it signals that you have enough leisure, that you have enough time, or you can pay someone to show that they're paying attention. And I think your point is really good, that it can come from an internal place, and that status signaling can also teach you, like, wait, I can slow down and pay attention to myself. Like, that's part of the money. Is that, like,
Yeah.
you're supposed to be able to do nice things for yourself when you make money, and it's hard when you're used to being scrappy, and I know you run pretty scrappy. Like, you are a go-getter, and it's interesting to hear that you literally took a course to give yourself the opportunity to do that, because that is some serious business right there. So you took all these courses, you journal in Bali, you're gonna be a stylist, this is it. What does the path to building the business now look like when you've already had online success and done that?
What was really interesting? I thought, oh my God, this whole journey of entrepreneurship, as you know, is all about like doing things and learning lessons. Just there's all these
Just
lessons that we're
constant.
learning, constant lessons. Done that, didn't work, don't want to do that again. Or yeah, that worked. So I was like, well, I have all these clients. I work with more than 500 women over the course of 5 years. That was a lot. And so I thought, I was successful as a dating coach. So, like, I'm going to close that down. I'm going to open my styling practice, and all these clients are going to come rushing in, and I'm going to be rich and successful again, you know? And so that did not happen. And that was such a humbling lesson to learn in business, and just in general in life. Because, yeah, my previous clients who trusted me and saw me as an expert, as a dating coach, did not see me as an expert in style yet, you know? That was a hard pill to swallow, but, yeah, I started just figuring out, well, the basic thing I told myself is, like, if I did it once, I could do it again, you know?
Of course.
I think I just did not expect that
Yeah.
it's going to be so hard again. And it's actually,
It
I
is.
think it's actually harder for me now building my business as a stylist because, anyways, there's many different reasons why the previous business worked. And honestly, it was pretty much like a unicorn because I hit that product market fit right away with dating. And it was
Yeah.
during COVID and everything. I had a polarizing message.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, yeah. And so, having that experience, I was like, well, this is going to be easy breezy. Let's do it. Let's go. I know all the funnels and all the marketing and blah, blah, blah. It didn't work
Mm-hmm.
that way. So
Yeah.
yeah, the first year was hard. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's still not super easy breezy. And I don't think, I mean, business in general, for the most part is again lessons and a journey, and it's hard and then it's
Right.
amazing and it's hard again. So yeah, I started to do different things, figure out different ways where to get clients, started learning about it. And then I realized, and this is just the person I am, I'm like, look, there must be someone who teaches that, who teaches how to build a
Yeah.
business for stylists. And then I found you. I actually posted in a group of other stylists about who can I mentor or coach with, and they recommended check out Nicole. So I checked you out, and this is how I joined your Accelerator because I was like, look, I could. My philosophy is always, and I don't know if that hasn't always been, I guess, the right approach, but what has helped me along the way is like I know there's an expert there to teach me X, Y, Z. If I have the money to invest, I'm going to invest and do it faster. Because I had so many questions about how to build this business because they're so different and it's a
It
different
is.
niche and
It's
like
so
all
different.
of that. And I've tried a few things and they didn't really work. So yeah, then I found you and joined your program.
When you look back at it now and you think about like what really worked, I think you could be right that it was COVID, market fit, all of that. I also think it was that you had a very polarizing message as a dating coach. And do you ever like feel like that is in the online space just like such a huge part of success if you understand how to capitalize on it?
So that's a really good question. I actually was thinking about this just recently. So, first of all, I did not have a polarizing message to have a polarizing message. I had a polarizing message because I truly believed that is the right way to think and attract the right partner and a way to move forward in relationship. I still believe it was that. And I developed my body of work through years of writing. I started writing on Medium and I wrote every day and I developed all these ideas and as I work with clients and obviously like I got married and I had a family, and so I lived what I preached and I practiced in my relationship, and so
Mhm.
it ended. I would say, accidentally, it ended up being a polarizing message. And you know me, Nicole, I don't shy away from speaking my mind and saying what I think, despite people. Oh my God! Over the years, for my ideas in dating, oh my God, people called me like a sociopath and there was so much hate and all of that. I didn't look at any of that. So yeah, to answer your question, I think mostly like you have to believe in something really strongly,
Yeah.
to become a thought leader and to really say what you want. And ultimately, if you don't look at everybody else, what everybody else is doing, that's what I'm actually trying to figure out now as I'm a stylist, which is, I mean, honestly, if you look at all the stylists, they all speak about the same thing, and that's most of them, right? That's the resistance I have being in this niche. It's like, all right, how many times I can blindly record a video about how to tie a shirt 10 ways, or like all of that stuff to me feels very superficial, and I'm just not that type of a stylist, and this is why I like with your work because you're not about that. You literally talk about the deeper concepts and subjects of what it takes to be a stylist. And so I think I'm in the process of developing my body of work when it comes to
Yeah.
starting like identity shifts and what does this mean. A polarizing message is really good because then you attract the right people and you attract the others and it like creates this vortex around you. But I'm not here to do that
You're not
for the
doing it for
sake
the sake of it. Yeah.
of doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you came into the program, having had all this experience, your story is interesting because I know you were a little bit like, like, do I really need this? Like, is this really going to be any different when you look back? What would you have shifted in how you started the business now versus what you ended up like what you did in the beginning?
It's very hard to say because being in your program, the most important thing that being in your program and working with you and having the direct feedback from you as a client, for me personally, and I know different stylists take different things from your program, but for me was like, because I still, when I start, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a stylist, right? But there were so many thoughts in my head about, well, can I be a stylist? Especially since what I've shared with you in my background. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I still I did not see myself as a stylist, and I could not believe that I could do it. So when I joined your program and, I was going through the course and everything, and you were helping me navigate this whole thing. I think it was mostly self-belief and the mindset that really helped me realize that I could freaking do this. And not only I could do this, but I could do this super well based
Right.
on my story and my experience of having built a business before. So I remember you told me specifically, you were like, oh my God, Anna, you are the most qualified person to actually help successful entrepreneurs with style because not only you're a stylist, but you've also built a seven-figure business before. And do you know how rare that is?
Yeah.
Besides, I also shared with you the fact that, I am an embodiment coach. I have been a feminine embodiment coach, and this was the foundation of my dating program and why so many women came to actually work with me in the past because
You're
I
right.
did not just tell them what to say to a man to get him back or like all this superficial dating advice that's the internet is full of that is the same way that the internet is full of superficial styling advice from
That is
influencers, right?
correct.
So it's the same thing. And then I had that. I had the experience of taking more than 500 women through deep identity shifts so they could change, so they could attract what they want, which is a different type of a man. And so if I could bring that into my styling practice, which is all about identity shifts using, clothes and style as a tool, then the combination, because many stylists don't even have that, right? They're here for the
Right.
clothes, which is great. I feel like there's a niche for that too. But I'm here for the identity shift that clothes can give me and my clients. And we just use clothes as a tool to do that. So by being in your program, I really understood that. And I remember, I'm going to tell a story, you're going to love it. I remember listening, to your program and reading some of your messages. And I remember riding my scooter because that's what you do in Bali, and I was, like, crying as I was listening to you because, you know, I mean, I myself am a coach, and I truly believe in coaching, and mentoring,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
you are one of those people who will always be, and I'm sure we'll work together in the future, who'll always be one of my true mentors because you saw in me again what I knew about myself, but I've
Mm.
forgotten. Because I've closed down the business and maybe part of me thought that I was a failure or it didn't work or whatever. But you saw in me dare I say, the brilliance and the
100%.
potential and who I am and what I could do. Because when you're building a business is really hard, and I'm an extrovert and I always want and crave support. So when a mentor like you, who's actually worked with my niche and my group and whatnot, saw who I am, and when I heard that reflected back to me, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I can do this," and as I said, I
Yes.
was crying because no one else has told me, my husband doesn't sit every night and saying, "You're amazing, you can do it. You know how amazing you are. You know what we've built." He's dealing with his own shit about, closing down business. My girlfriends
Right.
don't understand, my family doesn't understand. So yeah, I think being in a container like that with someone who really believes in you and sees the potential and encourages you and literally is like you are sitting on a gold mine. For me, this was everything, and yeah, I'm so grateful.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. I think everybody you came with such a rare experience. And it's interesting, you know, I think it's just very telling how many people I get on the phone with, or I have messages with them, on DMs that are like, yeah, but will it work for me? Like, will it work for me? And it's like, as you know, as a coach who has run programs, I don't know what your capacity is for change. So I don't know. I don't know where you are in your personal development, that of how much discomfort you are capable of tolerating, because that's the truth. Like what you said earlier about being an entrepreneur, and like you can't force someone's capacity for discomfort. You just can't. It just doesn't work. You've seen that. You can hold them to a standard and hope they mean it, and you can be there when they come to you and ask, but you can't make people do anything, even if you have the
Mm.
best program in the world. And so working with you is fascinating because you are someone that goes after the hard thing. Like if it is hard and it is in the room, you're going to go for it because you're like, I got to tackle that thing, and I'm going to get on the other side of it. It is and there are clients like this, but there are not this is a capacity you have to be able to cultivate in yourself for discomfort, and yours is wildly high. And that was really more than, yes, the success online. That is what I could see. And when you're that person, it doesn't matter what you step into. You're always going to be successful eventually. It's just because that's how you are wired. And so it doesn't surprise me that you were like, I'm not a stylish person. And here I am, a stylist. So whatever else you go after, I'm confident you will tackle it. So now you've been very honest, you do a program. It's not necessarily all like sunshine and rainbows. There's still hard days. But what do you feel like you have grown in? What do you feel like is easier on the other side?
Right after I finished your program, I've actually enrolled well, this was your program, but also, as you say, 90 days of YouTube videos that I've been producing. One of them was crazy viral. I continue to post and all of that. I've enrolled, 4 clients in the span of 2 months, I believe, 2 to 3 months.
That's amazing.
And then right now, I'm just launching my group program, my first standing group program, which I'm really excited about. So it's a journey, and you got to hustle. Like
Yeah.
I have days, I have days where, and I've talked to other stylists, and it's hard, but it's a business. So, and I know how much you hustle, Nicole, to get your enrollments into your programs. And if you ask any successful business owner, you got to put in the work. Without the work, unicorns are not going to march into your room
Right.
and deliver you
Hand
clients.
you bags of
So
money.
yeah, right. So I've done this enough times, I guess, to start to see the ebbs and flows and the patterns. And I also have, bad days where I'm not feeling it. And,
Yeah.
I do the minimum that I also have 2 small children, so
Right.
that in itself is a thing. But yeah, like you said, I think I have this thing in me where, like, even launching this program, right? I'm like, all right, what if bloody nobody signs up? I said, well, I guess I'm gonna learn, you know what I mean? And if nobody
Yeah.
signs up, I guess I'm gonna try and do something different, like a paid masterclass or whatever, whatever.
Right.
So it's a journey. But just last night, actually this morning, I heard from a woman who actually has a big following on Instagram. She messaged me and said, "Hey, I watched your YouTube video. It's amazing. I found you on Instagram, and I'm your biggest fan, and I'm looking into your offerings." And I'm like, yes, so
See, it works.
yeah,
It
yeah,
works, it
but
just
you
takes
got to
time. So
show up.
you gotta show up, you have to do the uncomfortable thing. What's interesting is, like, 4 clients coming from what we were dealing with when you first started is, like, pretty significant in 2 months. And I
Mhm.
don't think I think you're underselling how much the positioning of you like, yes, you got this confidence, you got who you were for sure, but then you immediately hit the ground talking to them. And it usually takes about 60-ish days of consistency, 90 days of consistency before people are like, "Wait, what?" Right? So you were getting YouTube hits. You have a YouTube channel that was doing well, but it wasn't necessarily getting you clients that were like
No.
the kind of
Mhm.
clients you wanted to work with that would pay your rates. one of the things we were trying to look at for you was how do you balance getting views and getting attention and niching and
Right.
doing that. And I'd love to hear it was, these are real strategy conversations. These are real things that we have to talk through and think through in these types of programs. So what did you end up deciding? Because I think it's interesting for people to hear this because it's a real conversation about marketing.
Yeah, so being on YouTube is actually a different beast rather than being on
Yeah.
Instagram. And I chose YouTube as a platform because I honestly have a love-hate relationship with Instagram. And again, being a person, well, I consider myself more of a person of depth rather than putting out short-term content. For me, long-term content is something that I felt more passionate about. And I said, all right, I got to choose a platform. Like, you're not going to get clients. Again, no one's going to come and bring you back some money without you being on a platform and doing marketing essentially, which is by the way still hard for me. Like, I find it wild that I've built a seven-figure business and I still find marketing hard. Like, it's just doesn't make sense to me, but it is what it is. Because I think at heart, I'm still a practitioner first, like a coach first and a stylist first, and I think your audience will resonate with that. But then the marketing and the sales, and I think I told you this before, when I tell this to other peer stylists, they're like, what? I've done 1,000 sales calls in my previous business, 1,000. Like, I had days, and that's how I built my seven-figure business, through bloody sales calls all day, every day. I done 6 to 8 sales calls. So when people hear 7 figures and everything, and maybe it was COVID and luck, I'm like, there were days I couldn't get up out of bed because I was so exhausted. Now, I don't promote that model. I don't want to do that anymore. But I had to learn how to sell. And, my highest to date sale was like a $20,000 one-on-one client. I'm just sharing this because I think a lot of people might hear my story and be like, well, I just got to hustle and this is so inspiring and whatnot. Yeah, but and then there's a lot of work in that where we have
Yep.
to learn sales as the number one skill as business owners.
Yes.
Anyways, coming back to YouTube, I started to be on YouTube, and then I worked with a girl who's helped me figure out a strategy, which was basically looking at what works in the styling niche. And what works in the styling niche, surprise, surprise, is dressing rules every woman should know, which is, by the way, my highest to date video, which is almost 750,000 views now. Or,
Yeah.
10 things expensive ladies wear, or, body
Ugh,
shape, blah, blah, blah.
right.
So
But
it
it
was
wasn't getting
all of
clients, it was getting views, and you do make money from views. Some people, not everybody, I don't wanna encourage, you know, there's a monetization strategy that you already had from your last experience, online. But, like, it wasn't you could have all those views, but it's not like you're rolling in cash just because it's
no.
doing well.
Yeah,
I mean
so views can get you some AdSense revenue, but it's not
right.
necessarily going to get you clients, especially if your content is that kind of top of funnel, 10 tips here, 3 things there, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So
Right.
I wasn't getting, I realized that the women who sit on the internet and like type in or watch videos about rules and techniques and tips, whatnot, are not the women who are going to pay 3, 4, $5,000 for a stylist. So yeah, I mean, it's still a journey, to be honest, Nicole. I've since then, joined another program which is all about YouTube, and I figured out. So my strategy now is actually doing like a hybrid. So
Yes.
pairing up what works with some of the deeper content. So that's
Right,
what I'm
that gets
doing now.
clients. Yeah.
Yeah,
So what you're
yeah,
saying basically is it's not like you have to eventually you have to learn how to sell your services to your point earlier. Like even in your content, it has to go back to like what you are wanting to be known for, what the positioning is. It,
hmm
ti tips without it is you're a content creator. Like at some point, like and you can do both. You can make money at both, but I think a lot of stylists think that that there is a magic bullet where you can give 10 tips forever and it will be easy. And then you'll also make thousands of dollars as a personal stylist. And it's just
yeah.
right? Because I mean, that's why everybody wants to be a stylist right now, is because it looks easy to get on camera and say 10 tips. But if you don't really like as you've experienced when you have to talk to clients, you have to have all these conversations, knowing your 10 tips and getting on YouTube and then being able to help someone when they're having a meltdown about a blouse that has a frill on it and they forgot to tell you, like, they are two different jobs, and the shock that comes with that is often a lot for some people.
Yeah, I think, coming back to when I was in your program, I realized I could actually do this. Not only I could do this, I could do this better. Well, I wouldn't say the majority of stylists, but then many stylists out there, because I'm not here to help a woman figure out how to wear a blouse 10 ways. That's like not my first interest. I'm here to help a woman step into a new identity. And I know how to do that really well as a coach in the past. And so what we see in the industry of styling is a lot of influencers or even and I know this is a big part of your program because you talk about, well, what is the identity shift that you're creating for clients, and talk more about that rather than here's the 10 tips. The 10 tips are going to give you the audience that are going to follow you for the 10
For
tips,
sure.
but not for what you're actually doing in your services. And they're definitely, well, not probably not going to look at you as someone who I want to pay $5,000 or even $3,000 to help me shift and transform. Because it's not about the wardrobe. It's about how you're feeling and who you're presenting yourself to be, and your identity shift that, again, your closet or your clothes are doing for you.
One of the things you've done very well is share your own story, share your own experience with styling and style and your own journey there, which has been really cool to see because I think that with more time that's the kind of thing that creates a cult following because people want to see that there is evidence that this is possible for them. And like you have literal evidence from your past career, from how you showed up online. And it's really cool. I'm really excited for all the other clients you're going to see. So tell me at this point, you're what, a year and a half? How far are you into your business?
Yeah, like 13 months. So I'd say a bit
Okay.
more than a year. Yeah.
All right. So it's a little over a year. Still a baby business. I didn't realize it was
I
even
know, right? It's
that
only been
new.
like nothing. Yeah. So
That's
new.
pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah, yeah. I mean, talk about hire somebody and go quicker. My God, that's really quite fast, actually. Um, what are you excited about? I think I have some idea, but what are you excited about for in your business in the next, 6 months or a year? Like, what do you really want this next year to look like for you?
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that's nothing, but to me, it's actually such a long time. I'm like, oh my
Really?
god, how many? Yeah, like a year. Like in my mind, by now, I should be back at $1 million a year with this business. Which is like so
It's a different ball game,
unrealistic.
girl.
I
It's a
know,
different
right?
ball game.
But because I am, as you said, such a go-getter, and it's like results are not coming fast enough. What should I do? I just launched a custom chat GPT as a feature. Like it's a whole thing. But yeah, now that I talk to you and I step back, and this is again the value of working with someone who can look at this and say, Anna, chill the F
No,
out,
seriously.
because it's only been 12 months and you've had like what, 8 clients? Most stylists
Yeah,
don't
I
even
mean, like,
blah, blah, blah,
you've, like, tripled your prices. You have this, like, incredible YouTube strategy that's, like, also monetized and paying you that is both this
Yeah.
transformational thing. You're literally building a actual body of work, like, not you're that's what you're doing. That most people aren't even using body of work 8 years into working with me, so just chill, girl, chill.
I
Like
know. I think that's the thing about like, well, maybe I don't know if you want to call me a high achiever or whatever. It's like never fast enough, never
I
good
know,
enough, never big
I
enough.
know, I
So
know.
it's like, yeah, but I could have been there, and because blah blah blah.
I mean,
Anyways, but yeah,
maybe,
thank
or
you.
else maybe you need to be where you are to learn the lessons you need to learn so you can handle over there. Because maybe over there looks different
I
than
mean,
over there looked as $1 million business owner. Because 'cause you're not the same person. So what if you need to get all these reps in? You're trying to build your own career when you say that. I mean, you're not, but that's what your brain is saying. Your brain is saying that's success. But then 20 minutes ago, you said, "Don't do 9 sales calls in a row. It will kill you. Don't build the business the way I did. It's not healthy." So sure, let's not go back over there where it was very like it had its highs, but money doesn't change the unhealthiness of the model. Let's not pretend. So I hear you, but I'm coaching you now to remind you you're not building that business. You're building you're building a healthier, better, more transformative business. So it might take another year.
Yeah,
Chill.
for sure.
You know?
Hopefully a bit less, but we'll see. No, I mean, I've learned so many lessons. I would never recommend that model to anyone. I've the biggest lesson I learned is like, holy shit, I can have a business like that. It's possible for me to make $1 million a year with something
Yeah.
that I created. That in itself, this is what
Yes.
I'm grateful for, and all the sales experience that I have and all the connection and
Right.
everything. So back to your question about what I'm excited about. I'm excited about my group style program that's coming out starting in May. I'm in the launch phase right now.
So exciting.
Yeah, so that's kind of in the next, I guess, 3 months. And then I'm excited also about all the women, who are finding, the clients that I'm going to be able to help. I'm having
Yeah.
my, I actually wanted to send you a message or a screenshot today. A woman signing up for my repeat styling service.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was going through your program, you said something like, well, the styling industry or like personal styling is a repeat business
Mhm.
industry where, clients come back to you and you give that offboarding guide where you give them a bit of a discount to sign up for the next service and everything. So I'm having my first client actually sign up for a repeat. And for me, it's like, because I never had, like, dating industry doesn't work like that. You got to
I was
offer
gonna
them
say it's the
something
opposite.
else.
You never
Yeah.
want them to come back to you or else you didn't do your job. So it's like the complete
Yeah.
opposite.
Yeah, unless you do like a higher kind of, anyways, right? But here it's like literally clients could come to you over and over and over again. Maybe it's
Yeah.
like once in 2 years, maybe it's for an event, whatever. So this woman worked with me in like her work wardrobe, and now
Mhm.
she wants to do a complete wardrobe overhaul, like things
Whoa,
like that. So
congrats.
I'm so excited, and I'm celebrating that. Yeah, and I'm also looking forward to, you know, building this into something meaningful and substantial and connecting with all of these amazing women who are
Yeah.
going to be my future clients.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. It was so wonderful to chat with you.
Thanks so much, Nicole.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me. It turns out that social proof is actually pretty important, so if you could help me out, I'd so appreciate it. If you just had a quick free moment and could leave me a rating or review on the podcast app, that would be killer. And even better, if you wanted to share this episode on Instagram and tag me, that would totally make my day. And it would bring so much more awareness to the podcast and would help other stylists just like you who are looking to build lucrative styling business, because the better each of us does, the better all of us do. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll chat with you next time.